Hello everyone. Today's subject is a subject on the spirituality. As we're celebrating a platinum jubilee of our gracious Queen, who had and have such a remarkable sense of her own truth and being and service, and displays and shares with us for so many years this extraordinary faith in practice. I thought that I will share with you a few thoughts on what else we can do with the subject of spirituality now that we are living in this complete madness of New Age addiction. Addiction is something I specialize in and in trauma, and observe already for last 20 years the onslaught of mushrooming of all sorts of propositions from various people how to fix the less fortunate souls who are quite lost due to trauma, due to life issues. First of all, thank you for your subscriptions, and also thank you, Johanna, for the lovely scarf, which I am enjoying wearing it. At the beginning, I thought I'll quote something which I always do, and it kind of reminds me of how other people see the problem which we are facing now in the sense of addiction to spirituality, which is common and not very useful, particularly if we are not well emotionally. We cannot replace one thing with another. This doesn't work. One of the books which inspired me for this talk is a book by Jeremy Carrette, who, forgive me if I pronounced it wrong, have written a book called The Silent Takeover of Religion. And he showed to us in this particular book what it means to replace a perfectly solid religious practices and faith with something lightweight. As there are so many con artists surrounding us these days, even the most intelligent and exceptional human minds can indeed be conned very easily sometimes, especially if those spiritual gurus and teachers sound so plausibly. There is quite a lot of psychic readers, tarot card readers, meditators, various other saviors of humanity who do nothing else but make quite a lot of money. As I think many people said that this spiritual situation for sale is a very, very good business. It's a global business nowadays. It's unbelievable business with, as somebody said, it is the only business where the customers, when they are not satisfied, don't ask for money back. So whether the business is delivered or not, I rather like that line. Mostly that business is not delivered because, of course, the spirituality belongs to us all. Each of us has got the dimension of spiritual life, and we practice through various cultural, different religions and tribal worship, which is wonderful. And each religion, as I say, has got the golden thread which unites us all, which I would call practicing love, compassion, patience. The con people, especially con men and women, very often know very little about a real life, or indeed the depth of the spiritual growth. But it doesn't matter to them because they can really lie about anything, especially that they can promise us to fix us. I don't take well to people who promise me to fix me, and do not like the fact that people do that. So it's important for me to check people who promise to fix me. But at this time, I observe that it is almost a cultural addiction. Maybe with the likes of Oprah Winfrey, who sort of put the red carpet for various spiritual gurus and New Age situations. And New Age is been upon with us for quite a while. But this situation which we find ourselves in these days creates lots of confusion. My colleagues for a very long time did not agree with me that the New Age addiction would be addiction when there won't be any substance, any behavior, any processing like fantasy addiction, love addiction, no behavior. There will be just theories, a concept of salvation, a concept of fixing, a concept of becoming instantly enlightened and conscious. That is unfortunately not happening. I remember when I studied philosophy, I remember what Voltaire once said about our need to be completely and utterly fixed. I quote Voltaire: "Why do we even bother? Why do we make ourselves so open?" Sorry about this noise. I recorded it on the main road, so it's usually the case. Why do we make ourselves so open to such an easy damage? It is because of loneliness, it is because of our fear, or is it just to experience belonging to something else and being with someone, being with a group? And I think this at the bottom of that lies the need to belong, which is a human situation. We all need to belong. As children, belong to our parents, to our families. We want to belong to football clubs, which becomes a sort of a family. A church becomes a family. This is a healthy need, the basic human need. This often that need to belong is used by occult gurus, by various sharks who would sell you all sorts of wonderful tales and con particularly gullible, naive people. And as I always think about it, that this arrogance, which is probably worse, as Einstein would put it, than ignorance, is part of that conning process. People selling all sorts of things. Fortune tellers, easy solution to the world. If you give me a bit of money, if you pay me every month or whatever, your life will be absolutely great. Even colleagues and therapists, sometimes they venture into this situation. If you just imagine this wonderful positive things every time you get up in the morning, then you will be sort of manifesting. Manifesting is also a word which is exceptionally, wonderfully often used by the New Age heads. Indeed, negative thinking can demolish us, and the positive thinking, positive attitudes to life is a wonderful thing because it gives us more openness and hope. You have to be reasonably sane and sober and okay to move towards much more joyful situation. Even if you grieve, you will be joyful about the grief. But the spirituality for sale and the theories of spiritual nation, it's a major con. that involves also using the drugs, using quick fixing, including NLP very often, including hypnosis, badly experienced, all sorts of things like that. I remember when I was studying hypnosis, I had colleagues who kind of been running the pubs or being drivers, and after 2 months of hypnosis set themselves up for the practice, and off they go. And that is so irresponsible. There is of course a difference between medical hypnosis and not so medical hypnosis, but this willingness to go just to anyone who promise you God knows what is very common amongst us. Anything to abdicate responsibility. People who are traumatized, who are passive, who long to belong, who long to be fixed, who long to be addressed, are very vulnerable people. And that would be more obvious targets for those sharks. It's almost like we give ourselves so willing to others. We get rid of our possessions, our money, our time. You go to Brighton Pier and you see all the fortune tellers and all the ladies, well, very clever ladies. If you know a bit of psychology, if you observe people well, if you know body language, you can sort of pick up a genuine sort of statements, and you can more or less address them. I could easily, set up myself in the Brighton Pier if I wanted to be amusing myself for that. Not a good idea if you really take it seriously. And this is what is happening nowadays. So I feel that watching this wonderful celebration in this last 4 days, it reminds us what a real spirituality is all about, what real service is all about, what real humility is all about, and humanity of our gracious Queen. I felt immensely moved and privileged, even with my not so feeling well home, watching TV. I was moved to tears and felt really honored to be able to see this marvelous, marvelous celebration. Most of my colleagues are sane and good therapists, but I also supervise quite a few women who kind of would come to me and say, well, I cannot really come to you today, Maya, because I'm going to Australia. I'm following this teacher and he's in Australia. I said, what in heaven's name makes you go to Australia when you are in England? And why are you wasting your money and time, which is the greatest possession we have and the most expensive commodity, to go to Australia? You are not 12, you don't need a teacher, all you need is to center yourself and see that you've got enough teaching internally. No, my sister is going and I am going. This particular lady is quite well known and she does all sorts of things and follows her gurus religiously. It is become, in a sense, you can say that the New Age has become a new religion. It almost replaces an organized religion. And at least in organized religion, when we worship, we go, we respect, nobody really counts you that the outcome would be whatever the New Age people tell you. And that is maybe a major difference between having faith, practicing faith, growing spiritually, and being fixed by spiritual gurus. This implants, especially from Indian culture to us, there would be quite a lot of opportunists. Not that there's no virtue. Every religion, every faith has got virtue and has got something to offer, and indeed it does. But what is dangerous is when we do not check people. We are so eager to just belong to anything which promises whatever. And that by itself is really, truly a bad thing to do. I quote a saying which I love, Oscar Wilde saying about what we are willing to do to not take responsibility. Most people are other people. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions, their life a mimicry, their possession guaranteed by somebody else. It is quotations that they use, whether quotations of other gurus or quotations of promises. This excitement, ecstasy very often, which I observe with people who come, it's really, really frightening. And it's quite global at the moment. If you think that is the greatest business and it brings billions of revenue, that's some kind of business. There are plenty of con artists. So, words are cheap for people who sell spirituality. And if we don't value our own thoughts, our own being, our own souls, we'll be hooked by words. Someone who sells you spirituality or whatever the salesmen do, they don't really bother. They will tell you whatever brings them money. They will use tremendously elaborate, wonderful words. Doesn't mean that they will deliver. So if we don't have awareness of who we are, if our need to belong is bigger than belonging to ourselves, and not knowing that belonging to ourselves gives us that what we need, as Goethe would put it, we need to be belonging to our actions rather than perpetually looking for teachers and gurus, even if we're 50, 60, and 70. That's the time where we need to really have a bit more awareness than seeking another fixing. There's quite a lot of platitude spiritual teachers. They give you this information, that consciousness, great reverence, using the words, you must stop thinking negatively, you must be positive. You must awake with a positive attitudes in the morning. And they will, I have a few people whose friends of mine launch and who have enormous career, an enormous amount of money is made, enormous amount of people are following them. But actually, if you think and listen to those people, they do not say a single thing which is of any value to a seriously sober human being. None. So voila. Selling blessings. If you pay me, I will bless you. If you pay me every month, I bless you every month, maybe 10 times a month. Selling, a special gifts or special talismans or special whatever. I think one of the lots of this kind of coaches which are set up nowadays, and I think Dale Carnegie wrote a book, How to Win the Friends and Influence People. Those kind of fixes, as if you are a complete moron. Well, you are a moron if you listen to them, and you cannot figure that out for yourself. You have to listen to those guys who will eventually become quite wealthy through it. Selling platitudes, selling promises, selling all sorts of wonderful ideas, which you can jolly well come to it on your own, should you really sober up a bit emotionally. I call them unofficial con artists, and perpetually watch with a great bewilderment the mushrooming of coaches. every single human being, 2 weeks in AA or two weeks in with a therapy, 2 weeks or one book, and they're experts. They're setting the videos, nobody stops them. They will tell, they will repeat, they will deliver with great authority that grass is green, as if you haven't noticed. Or that sky is blue and there are lots of butterflies around, and the animals are lovely friends of ours. That kind of idiotic theories which so many people buy without even blinking their eyes. If you had a proper family, of course, upbringing, if you belong properly to loving environment, you'll have a courage to be yourself, to be imperfect, and you probably will save yourself a lot of money and time, and probably will spot those conmen very easily. There are lots of psychologists and social studies being done on the subject right at this moment. And you can find them, but that doesn't stop actually this mushrooming of coaches and guru kind of situation. We need to address our traumas first. We need to heal. We need to mature emotionally before we grow spiritually. It takes a sane, sound human being to be also spiritually mature. And spirituality, like everything else, needs maturing. What we say to children, what nature of God is, it's slightly not enough for an adult. We also have responsibility to grow spiritually. And that does not belong to any guru or any spiritual conman. It belongs to us. It's the inner job, not the outer fixes. We cannot buy spirituality. That's bogus spirituality. It is dubious in the first place. We don't need to advertise religion. We don't need to advertise salvation. We have to find it, maybe. But we do often don't want to find it. It's easier in a way to kind of like address that through somebody else. Well, meditation is good, but lots of people who advertise meditation, I had quite a lot of people who come to me and say they are special because they go to this special bodhisattvas meditation, or they're special because they're special Hindu meditation. It's nothing special. The moment that somebody say they're special, they're actually really in trouble. Yoga, meditation, everything is good, but you have to have a sober approach to it. This is not something which you can just half sleepingly swallow, like goose swallowing, especially prepared fattening liver food, so it can be better for it. Of course, belonging to life, to loving groups is something which we all need. And that's what other people will use it, yeah? Even if we're loners, but we can, as Einstein would put it, by my nature I'm loner, but I have a sense of knowing where I belong to, a group of people I belong to. That sense depends upon our maturity. And it's not a physical belonging. It's not something you can buy. So it's not through selling the meditations or gurus' activities, or even if you feel that that's wonderful and we do things together. Belonging has to come from within. Faith, it's an inner environment. Spirituality is something we all have to grow into. Of course, we all long to be loved and embraced. And we all want to be at home. I think that Maya Angelou once said that I long, as it does probably every human being, to be at home wherever I find myself. That home is an inner home. It cannot be bought. And I feel and observe and experience our beloved Queen having that extraordinary home which she shared with us for so many years. Makes me feel humbled by it. As Bible would put it, the God's path is a narrow one. It's simple, but it's very difficult. And as St. Matthew would put it, only a few will find it. And that fact that it's a few is something which not many of us understand. We want to be fixed by somebody else. People who have the strong sense of love and belonging are authentic people. If we believe that we are not unworthy of love, that's the greatest trauma. And no amount of gurus and spirituality for sale will change that for us. We cannot really even contemplate that would be the case. So this is what we all need to remember. I'd like to quote T.S. Eliot, little part of his poem about humility, which I love. Do not let me hear of the wisdom of old men, but rather of their folly, their fear and frenzy, their fear of possessions or belongings to another, or to others, or to God. The only wisdom we can hope to acquire is the wisdom of humility. Humility is endless. And I feel that I was reminded for this last 4 days about our gracious Queen, humility. So let's say serenity prayer. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Bye for now.